Eyewitness News.
Good evening. Marcia Fleur is on vacation this weekend. In the news tonight, crews are working round the clock to get the Metrodome patched up and inflated in time for Monday night's nationally televised football game between the Vikings and the Dallas Cowboys. The dome is scheduled to be inflated tomorrow morning at 7:30. Reporter Dennis Kraft has more.
The crate that arrived at the Twin Cities International Airport almost 24 hours ago contained precious cargo, a piece of Teflon-coated fiberglass ordered special delivery from Buffalo, New York. It was rushed to the Metrodome, where an emergency team waited to perform the operation. The egg-brown sheet, measuring 190 feet by 50 feet and weighing 5,000 pounds, was unloaded and stretched across the gaping hole in the deflated Metrodome roof. But the work crews discovered they had to do a little more stretching than they counted on. More than 300 small bolt holes ring the Teflon sheet, and many of them didn't line up with the holes in the steel support. So many of those holes will have to be re-drilled, and that may delay reinflation of the dome until sometime early Sunday morning. And even with the dome buttoned up and inflated, there's still a lot more work to do before the dome is ready for Monday night's football game.
The primary thing is getting the field dried off with our vacuum equipment. That won't take a long time, but we have to get the field lined. That will take some time, and just generally get things cleaned up in here.
I noticed that they're replacing some broken seats. You have that kind of thing yet to do.
That's right, that's right. We expect, though, that we'll be able to complete all that by midday tomorrow very easily.
Crews continued snow removal operations today, shoveling pockets of snow through gaps in the roof onto the field below. Work crews, using torn pieces of the old dome, are hauling snow off to the side where it's dumped down a drain. The lights and sound systems are also being checked to make sure they'll be ready for the game.
If even an ill wind blows somebody some good, I guess it can be said that a deflated dome can lift the spirits of those who look at it from the proper angle. As the Metrodome director put it, if the Vikings didn't have a sellout for Monday night's game, they sure will now because of all this publicity. From the Metrodome, I'm Dennis Kraft, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Minneapolis. Now, one big question arising out of all this, just who has to pay for all of the dome's repairs? Dome officials say insurance is expected to cover all of the cost in repairing the dome, and it's an expensive repair job indeed. Now, start with the $50,000 to $60,000 it costs to manufacture a new panel on New Year's Eve. Add to that the $20,000 it took just to get the new panel from Buffalo, New York to the Twin Cities. Add on other expenses, including labor, and the total bill may top $300,000. In New York City today, police are searching for a man who warned people away from an area where 2 bombs were discovered last night. 4 bombs exploded in government buildings. Police believe it's the work of the Puerto Rican terrorist group FALN. 1982 had less than 3 hours to go when the first bomb exploded, causing extensive damage to the federal courthouse. Shortly thereafter, an anonymous caller telephoned a local radio station in New York.
Yes, night editor, please.
Speaking.
Yes, listen exactly. This is the FALN. We're responsible for the bombings in New York City today. Free Puerto Rico, free all political prisoners and prisoners of war.
New York City Police Commissioner Robert McGuire suggested at a news conference that that call was probably authentic.
The type of device used is consistent with what the FALN has previously used and taken credit for. The type of message given is also consistent, and the caller called at a time when it is difficult to believe that any other group would have been able to know what was going on.
The second bomb that went off severed the leg of a police officer who went to investigate a suspicious package. The package blew up as he approached it. 2 members of the bomb squad were injured when they removed protective netting from another bomb, and it went off. Security has been stepped up around official buildings, and a $5,000 reward has been offered for information leading to the arrest of suspects in the case. The scene in London's Trafalgar Square each New Year's Eve rivals that of New York City's Times Square. Thousands gather to celebrate the coming of the new year, but this year the celebration in London turned to tragedy. Jon Snow of ABC's British associate ITN has this report.
Even the fountains had become human anthills as Trafalgar Square staged its annual impromptu welcome to the new year. For some, even before the old year had gone, the experience proved too much. Midnight struck, the old year leaked away in an alcoholic haze, and in the aftermath, before the new year was an hour old, it had happened. These revelers oblivious that 50 yards behind them, a barrier had collapsed, people had stumbled, and women had been trampled to death. But with 50,000 seething in the square, 100,000 beyond, The rescue services could not get through. Even an hour after the incident, they were still picking up victims of crushings, faintings, and drink. Others were simply slumped against barriers where friends tried to revive them. A crisscross of white tape marked the spot where the women had died as police appealed for witnesses. But from all the thousands, very few knew it had even happened.
If any person witnessed that incident, will they please make themselves known to police officers?
2 hours later, the people had gone, leaving their bottles, cans, and garbage on the square behind them. It will have come as a great shock to those that were here that this standard New Year scene had this time left 2 dead as well. John Snow, ITN, Trafalgar Square.
And tragedy in Flint, Michigan this New Year's Day. Authorities say a 17-year-old boy shot and killed his father and his father's fiancée shortly after midnight. The boy then drove to a nearby township where he seriously wounded his girlfriend and a neighbor who had come to investigate. After that, the teenager went to the house of a relative in Flint where he was taken into custody. So far, no motive for the shootings has been given. Locally, police think armed robbery may have been the motive for a shooting in Mounds View last night, which killed 1 man and wounded 2 others. Police say they arrived at James Willie's home on Ridge Lane and found 3 injured men, including 2 whom police say were armed robbers. Officers confiscated several guns from the scene. 47-year-old James Call died today at Unity Hospital. No information is being released regarding Willie's condition and the other man's condition. Jerry Lewis walks out of the hospital. A Minneapolis man walks his way into the Guinness Book of World Records. And pollution control experts enlist the services of a computer to stop illegal hazardous waste haulers. These stories and more in just a moment.
Levitt's Furniture